Hola estudiantes, este es el video 12.3 y vamos a hablar del presente subjuntivo. So I know that you might be wondering what is the subjunctive, and we are going to talk about this in this video. So with the exception of commands in the previous unit or in the previous grammar point, all the verbs that we have talked about so far in the first semester, second semester, and so far in this semester, we have been using indicative form, or in this case also called indicative mood. The indicative is used to state facts and to express actions or states that the speaker considers to be real and definite. Okay, so I know that this might be a little bit wordy, but what I mean is that the indicative form of verbs or statements usually refer to things that happen or that are happening, that usually happen, that have happened in the past, or that will happen in the future. But actually, it's a little bit more on the realistic side or factual side, okay? Now, we are going to talk about the subjunctive form or subjunctive mood that expresses the speaker's attitudes toward events as well as actions or states the speaker view as uncertain or hypothetical, okay? So if at this point you are not really or sure or you're not understanding what we mean with the subjunctive, I'm going to tell you when we use the subjunctive, okay? So, the subjunctive is mainly used to express will and influence. So whenever I give you advice, it doesn't really mean you're going to follow that advice, but I'm going to push you or influence you to do something. I don't know if it will happen, but that's why the subjunctive is going to take over, because I'm talking about something I'm telling you to do, but I don't really know if it will become true or a fact, okay? Second, emotion. 3, doubt or disbelief or denial. And 4, indefinite, something in being indefinite or non-existent. So I don't know if this helps you understand what I'm going to talk about and how I'm going to relate this to the subjunctive, but I want to clarify that the subjunctive does not go along with facts. This goes along with beliefs, okay, that do not necessarily mean they are true. With influence or will, like I said. So I'm just paraphrasing this same information just to let you know that this form of the verb, the subjunctive, el subjuntivo, is going to be used with actions that are non-factual or non-existent, okay? And I'm going to keep explaining further so you probably have a clearer idea of the subjunctive. Okay, first, how are we going to do the subjunctive, okay? So it's very similar to the usted or ustedes form and the negative to commands. From the yo form of the present indicative, so the yo form of the present, the simple present that we have studied, we are going to drop the O and we are going to replace it with the subjunctive endings. Okay, so in here you have to keep in mind that we're keeping that stem that we have been using for, like all in previous semesters. For example, hablar, we are going to keep that verb until before the ending, AR, that we're going to drop, and then we are going to add the subjunctive endings, which we will study now, okay? So, hablar will drop the AR, comer will drop the ER, and escribir is going to drop the IR. So we're going to be left with a stem that we have used before in unit, lesson 1, with my simple present verbs. Now we're going to keep the same stem, and then we're going to add the subjunctive endings. And here are the endings. For AR verbs, we have es, or es, hemos, eis, en. For ER and IR verbs, we are going to have a, as, amos, ais, an. Here we have the endings in a chart. So as you can see, they are going to be regular for regular verbs. They are going to follow this pattern. And I want you to look at the stem. That is the same stem that we have already learned how to get, okay? Dropping the ER or AR or IR, depending on the verb that we have, and keeping the stem and plugging in the subjunctive endings. Here we have some irregular yo forms, and they are all already giving us the stem. So we are going to keep this stem and use the endings that we have over here. Okay? So look at these verbs, and just remember we are going to keep that stem and use the subjunctive endings. Like we have been, talking in all of these lessons, whenever we have changes with verbs that have a C or a G or a Z, we are going to replace these, or they are going to change to car, gar, or sar. And then we are going to look at the new form that comes after that. For example, in here, sacar goes to saque, jugar, juegue, almorzar, almuerce. Okay, so this is going to be very similar to the commands that we have talked about. And actually, those commands, like I said, these are not facts. The fact that I'm telling you that don't eat pizza every day, don't drink soda every day, it doesn't really mean it will happen. That's why all of these are in a group called subjunctive, because like I mentioned before, these are not facts yet. It hasn't happened. It didn't happen like in the past tense or future tense or present tense. It's something totally different. I'm only giving you a suggestion. I don't know if that is going to happen. That's why it's the subjunctive form. As we have also mentioned, the stem changing verbs, they keep that change throughout. So let's say if they have an irregularity, it will also remain. Just like with the commands, whatever irregularity we know of that particular verb, it will remain with the present subjunctive. So we can see in here all of those stem changing verbs, and we have the conjugation over here. It keeps, for example, from E to IE, it keeps those forms, from O to UE, or from E to I. It will be the same situation with the stem change. So same in here, the IR stem changing verbs have the same stem changes in the subjunctive, and in addition, we have also the nosotros and vosotros forms that go to another stem change, okay? The unstressed E changes to I, while the unstressed O changes to U. Okay, so this is an additional change on top of the stem changing piece that we already know, okay? So for you, maybe it's going to be a little bit easier or, simpler if you look at this chart, because sometimes trying to apply the rule is not really going to work because we have so many irregularities, okay? So I suggest you that sometimes we will have to use memorization, okay? Take a bunch of notes and still let me know if you're not, grasping whatever we are explaining here, remember I can meet with you virtually and we can work on this if you prefer. Now we also have irregular verbs like all the time, and whenever we use the subjunctive, this is going to be as well irregularity. So we have 5 verbs that are irregular in the present subjunctive, okay? Remember, we also mentioned that with the commands. So in this moment, we are talking about the irregularities in the present subjunctive. So we're talking about the verbs dar, estar, ir, saber, y ser, okay? What are the present subjunctive forms of these verbs? De, des, de, demos, deis, den. Estar, esté, estés, esté, estemos, estéis, estén. Ir, this changes a lot. Vaya, vayas, vaya, vayamos, vayáis, vayan. Okay, so you're going to see those subjunctive forms in here, and mainly we have tackled how to get this present subjunctive. We haven't really talked about how we are going to use it, okay? So I want to give you as well a couple of examples so you guys have a clearer idea how to use this. So just in here, before we go to the examples, remember that the subjunctive form of I is going to become haya. And finally, here we have a couple of examples. It says, por favor, quiten los platos de la mesa. Les aconsejo que preparen la cena. So in these 2 examples, in the first one, it says, or it looks like a command, please take off the plates of the table. And in the second one, it says, I suggest you or I advise you to prepare dinner. In these 2 examples, there is no fact yet. They have not taken the plates off the table. That's why she is asking for that to happen. And over here, this person is giving an advice. I don't know if this will become reality. I don't know if this will become a fact. That's why this is in the subjunctive form. So, the subjunctive is most used in sentences that consist of a main clause and a subordinate clause. The main clause contains a verb or an expression that triggers the use of the subjunctive, okay? And the conjunction que connects the subordinate clause to the main clause. So actually, let's go back to that statement over here. We are going to use these to express advice. So that's why in here it says will and influence. I'm giving you an advice. I'm hoping that you follow my advice. Second is going to be related to emotions. Third is going to be related to doubt and disbelief and denial. And fourth is going to be related to something indefinite or non-existent. So, here, okay. Es muy importante que vayas al hotel ahora mismo. Now, the que is a connector. So I think that this is one of the most or the best hints that you're going to see whenever we use subjunctive, okay? So that que is going to go in front of the verb that we are using in subjunctive. It says in the main clause, es muy importante. So I am stressing the importance of this activity or this action. It is very important that you go to the hotel now. Are you going to the hotel now? I don't know. It's not happening yet. I am just telling you that it is important that you go. You haven't gone. You are not going. I don't know if you will go. I'm trying to influence or I'm trying to state that I want you to go, okay? So that's why I hope that you guys see the difference between, something that is factual